For having me. This leaked memo and the direction that it appears the Supreme Court is going is not surprising, but it is terrifying. And this has been one of the animating issues of this campaign that I've heard from people all over our state that they're concerned about this, right? Because our state legislature already radicalized. And so this is why I have supported getting rid of the filibuster, codifying Roe v. Wade into law. And then we also need to address that the Supreme Court needs to be rebalanced, expanded, because it has become extreme under some of the Trump and GOP appointments.
Well, and I think, again, the Supreme Court is certainly one that goes through ebbs and waves, just like many facets of our system. But this would make it up to states to decide. This would no longer be federal law if indeed this opinion becomes final. What are the key concerns, do you believe, of Democrats and voters in Ohio with regards to access to abortions if it is just up to the state?
Well, we already know what's going to happen. In Ohio, our state legislature has made moves that are even more extreme than what's happening in Texas and Florida to ban access to abortion. Oh, you can still get abortion now, but they are moving to become extremely limited in our ability to be able to access this key type of healthcare. And so we know what's going to happen. People in Washington know what's going to happen. And that's why it's such a risk, actually, when we're getting back to this Democratic primary, to have a Democratic nominee who has voted over 70% of his career with Republicans to restrict access to abortion. That's my opponent, Tim Ryan. We need to have a fighter. We need to have a champion for this important right, especially in this moment, because the other risk that we're facing is that the Supreme Court will begin to continue to strip away other sorts of rights and protections, civil rights, voting, and we need to move quickly.
Well, I want to get to Tim Ryan in just a bit, your opponent, as you mentioned, but Ohio, apparently there is an issue with redistricting lines, congressional redistricting lines, and the state Supreme Court ruling that there would need to be 2 primaries this cycle on May 3rd, but then voters are going to have to come back again, and they don't even know when they're coming back. Do you believe that there's an appetite to get to the polls where people will actually come out and the vote will be, adequate to reflect the state?
There's an appetite for leadership that's going to address what's going on in our state, which is a lot of people that are frustrated with the cost of living, a lot of people that are nervous about the levels of gun violence we're seeing, suicide, young people who are getting killed, and wanting real solutions and not just typical politics. So that appetite is certainly there. But you're right that these measures that have been led by the GOP in our state to gerrymander, to now have 2 primaries, they suppress the vote. We're seeing lower voter turnout rates in this midterm cycle already. Just this morning, getting reports that in Cuyahoga County, Cleveland, which is a very important voting block of our state, that people are getting turned away because the machines aren't working right now. And so we have a lot of work on our hands to be able to protect the fundamental right to vote and ensure that we have a functioning democracy. But at the core of it, again, is having nominees and leadership that is going to make people believe that it's not just about them, not just politics as usual, but actually focused on solving problems that our communities across the state are facing.
Let's go to your aforementioned opponent, Congressman Tim Ryan. He has said that Democrats need to set aside cultural issues to win back Ohio voters. What do you think he means by this, and what's your response?
I think it's pretty clear what he means by it, that he's going to disregard the rights and protections of Asian Americans, for example, and some of the ads that he's putting up, that he is going to focus very clearly on what he defines the working class to be, which is a white working class. And that is not only wrong, it's a bad strategy. And so what we need to focus on is the fact that how we win in Ohio is by actually motivating our base to turn out to vote for Democrats. That's our biggest hurdle right now, is that not that people are going to vote for a Democrat or go vote for a Republican. No, it's that they're either going to vote for a Democrat or they are not going to vote at all. And so we need to have a nominee that is sticking to our values, that is not running from the so-called culture wars, but actually standing up for what our party believes in, which is that regardless of who you are, who you love, where you live, that you get a fair shot in our state, in this country, and at life. That's what the Democratic Party needs to stand up for, and we have to have a nominee that's ready to fight for that.
One more quick question. What is your thought about repealing Title 42 or extending Title 42, as some of your Democratic colleagues have sided with Republicans and said we can't eliminate it until we have a formal immigration policy and reform?
No, and we are not, another thing I want to say, we're not going to win by trying to be Republicans, Republican light. We've tried that. In Ohio, it has not worked, okay? So we need to figure out how to win by actually standing up for what we believe in. I support repealing Title 42. We do need to focus on comprehensive immigration reform, long time coming. My opponent in this Democratic primary has been part of Congress in the moments where there was a chance to move forward on that, and it hasn't happened. We need leadership. We need leadership that's looking towards the future and making sure, just like I'm so grateful my mom who immigrated to this country in the 1960s got the opportunity to pursue the American dream and also support people across our state who are here and make sure they have the resources that they need in life to be successful.
Morgan Harper, thank you so much for joining us from the state of Ohio. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to click on the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.